Good old boys.
I'm Mark.
Bog beef.
And I'm some stupid idiot, I guess.
Malcolm's back. Popular request. They're flooding the comment box, the email box. They want more Malcolm.
Yeah, I mean, you guys converted me into the religion known as plan trusting, so I guess,
Yep.
I have to pay it back somehow.
The number one plan truster in all of Sweden, from what I've heard.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's probably true at this point. Everyone over here just says, "Oh, I read on CNN that Trump will actually concede tomorrow." Like unnamed sources. Like, why are you caring about this, Malcolm?
Yeah, you probably trusted the plan more than 30% of Americans too.
Yeah.
We found a Republican a state congressman served in Oklahoma in the 70s, and he said it's time for Trump to go. And that's even if it was time to go, they sort of have you ever seen that clip, the viral clip where it's 30 minutes of them saying the walls are closing in. It's all over now.
Yeah.
He's going to resign tomorrow, and it's
They've been saying that for 4 years. That's the problem. If they had not done that, they might be able to realistically force the Republican Party to bend to their will. And I mean, I do think that the party itself would be happy if Trump conceded right now.
Yeah, but they can't really do that much to sort of force him.
No, because the voters will get mad. If I had to make a prediction about what will happen, and I'm sorry, it's not very plan trusting, but so one Roberts and then one of his appointees will sell him out in the Supreme Court with regards to Pennsylvania, and then after that, the state legislatures will be like, "Yep, it's time," and then he'll probably concede. That's probably what's going to happen.
That doesn't count as a sell-off as Roberts. He sold out.
Yeah, I mean Roberts is given, but one of his appoint. Thomas is not going to do it. Alito is not going to do it. It's going to have to be one of the people that he put on the Supreme Court. They're going to sell him out. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think that's it's fairly realistic scenario. But the problem here, there's a huge wild card here that is actually the cause of all of this sort of fear, uncertainty, doubt right now, which is that Trump is essentially breaking the iron law of oligarchy, which is that no matter what you fucking do, you can fight civil wars over the neighboring dukedom or whatever, but whatever you do, you don't actually break ranks by inviting in the plebs to settle disputes between the oligarchy.
Yeah, there's a good Oliver Bateman. He writes. I've been reading a lot of his articles about wrestling. They used to have this rule back then, and it was broken over a labor dispute basically, and it was no matter what you can't admit that it's fake.
Yeah.
And that sounds very obvious, but I mean okay, so think about that rule. Now think about your leg is broken and you have a big hospital bill, or you have a labor dispute, or you're trying to get to your car, a fan is trying to assault you. What do you mean? I have to fight this fan? I can't tell them look, this is a I don't really hate. No, you have to fight the guy. You have to literally fight the guy in the parking lot because this is the rule.
The legitimacy, and wrestling's a great analogy because it was not obvious to people in the 60s and 70s that wrestling was fake. For one thing, if you look at how what wrestlers did back then, they didn't do the crazy performative stuff they do now. It looked a lot of the stuff they did looked plausible, right? Because it started with catch wrestling, right?
Right, up to 10 years before that, it was actually really fighting, and then they were hey, we could fight a lot more if we cooperated a little bit.
So I mean, but the legitimacy of wrestling back then, well, that was the thing. They thought that the legitimacy of it rested on people thinking that it wasn't fake. But and kind of that's where we're at with elections now, right?
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And the problem here is that people bring up the example of Nixon thinking that Kennedy had stolen the election, but he says, I'm not going to fight this for the good of the country. That's not Nixon being, fucking starry-eyed idealist. Come on. Like,
Nixon wanted to come back, and he did.
Yeah. Like, Nixon, of all people, is not someone who says, like, there's never been anything under the table in this democratic system. It's all up and up. Like, no. Nixon knew how the game was played, and he knew that actually, like, the big sin is not necessarily like the good of the country. That's just what he says. But if he breaks ranks in a like this electoral cheating that may or may not have happened was according to the rules of the class he belonged to. Like, he lost fair and square within that context, and breaking the rules would actually be to say to the American people, here, let me present evidence that your sort of electoral system is a sham. Rally behind me, plebeians, and we will cross the Rubicon together. No, Nixon isn't going to do that.
Well, for one thing, like, Nixon and Kennedy were far more similar than Biden and Trump in the sense that, like, they came from... maybe Nixon and Kennedy aren't great examples. This is like Dole and Clinton in 96. They had different policy positions, but does anybody really think that neither was an outsider? They were both doing the same thing. It did behoove them both to keep the system viewed as legitimate.
I'm going to read something to set this up. I think our friend, we interviewed him for Distributus. He wrote a tweet storm, and I think he had he had a good summing up of like the situation. We can sort of comment from there. He says, "Okay, first, the election is a statistical tie. Its outcome demonstrates virtually nothing besides political division. The margin." That determines the electoral college is within the error, blah, blah, blah. Second, what is very apparent now, is the elections here are determined by the rules in place and the institutions which enforce those rules. Whether Trump wins or loses, this will be the takeaway lesson. As such, we are essentially looking at an enormous power swing based on arbitrary technicalities and institutional rules. The usual Democratic excuse that an election represents some kind of popular will is transparently false. Increasingly, even dyed-in-the-wool, trust the system centrists are beginning to see and talk about this political reality in our country. It's no longer about who the people want. It's about who can get into power and justify the power. This last sentence here. However, this new question, while more realistic, is no more meaningful. In the sense that the left-right imagine governing, this country is ungovernable. To be the America we remember, we can't be as culturally divided as we obviously are in 2020.
Yeah, and it's at the end of the day, it's not a cultural divide, which means you can't really solve it by everyone reading like 12 rules for life or whatever the fuck. Like, sorry, the only way out is through. But the relevant issue here is that, like, when there's a lot of sort of doublethink going on, especially among liberals who say that, well, they say two things that are completely contradictory. First of all, no fraud happened. Second of all, you will not be able to prove all the fraud that happened by, like, some arbitrary rules that keep changing that are my, like, evidentiary standards that have very little to do often with, like, evidentiary standards used either between, normal people or in courts of law. And so everyone kind of knows that there's a lot of fucking dirt under the carpet. And the sort of standard argument, like, how could there be fraud? Like, are you implying that people would be some sort of, like, androids with perfect intelligence, which is necessary for fraud? Like, no, actually, like, the US is a fucking like a toothpick house. It's a decaying oligarchy. Like, the roads are falling apart. Mommy Kamala is saying, well, we can't release these people we wrongfully convicted because then we won't have enough slaves left to fight the fires. Like, this is not some sort of like technotopia we're living in, whether we live in the US or in Sweden. And like the things that have been going on this election, like, oh, sorry, we accidentally destroyed the envelopes. Oh man, a water pipe burst and now we can't count votes. Wow, while this water pipe was bursting, like 150,000 new votes came in for Biden. What a coincidence. This is Keystone Cops shit.
The big problem, we were doing this live when the election happened, and you guys remember we were up super fucking late, and it was like 3 a.m. I think when we didn't wrap. I don't know if we wrapped the stream up then, but it's like they stopped counting the votes. And of all the things that happened in the election, that's the one thing that I don't understand. Like, maybe there is an explanation for it, and I just don't know it. If you're listening to this and you want to DM me the explanation for that, I would be glad to hear it, because I don't really understand why that happens. But let me is this related to that?
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, it's just, you were talking about the two contradictory views, and there is a very big contradiction here. If you're a person who believes that voting is important, that voting is the method, where we dole out power, it's how we apportion it, then yeah, of course, there's going to be fraud, because it's that important. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. And it kind of goes against the thing where Donald Trump is as bad as they say, then it'd be immoral not to do everything in your power to get rid of him, right?
Yeah.
By the way, that didn't come from Lenin. That came from Richard Petty.
Yeah. So exactly. So, but the reverse, like the Richard Spencer argument, would be, well, if voting doesn't matter, then then they wouldn't bother to rig the election. However, Noted Biden voter Richard Spencer's kind of changed his tune in the last year or two, hasn't it?
They all changed their tunes exactly to like fit in with what is good for them right now, which is saying something.
Yeah, Bronze Age Pervert made a great tweet, and I wish I had thought to phrase it the way he did. All these people, and I thought about this too, but not really with people like him, but like people on the radical leftist people. If your main goal is to topple the empire, the neoliberal empire that controls the world right now, the United States, there's never been a better chance in our lifetimes. Like, you can attack the direct legitimacy of the United States government right now. You can just say that this election was fucking fake, and we need to. And all these people who like their whole lives ostensibly are devoted to this goal have just like, they're like, well, are you crazy? Of course not. It's like. I say, if you're a Republican and this is good for you, then even if you don't believe it, you should say that the election was stolen. If you're Richard Spencer or you're in the DSA or whatever, you should be saying that too, because this is like fucking free real estate, right?
Yeah, and it's like it's very interesting to see all of these sort of Rod Dreher types going, oh well, I have principles.
Well, that's his job, though. Like, he's supposed to be saying that stuff. His job is to be the little bitch boy.
They're on it too. If you pop up asking questions about the tally thing, they'll show up in your menchies.
Yeah.
And
I saw Todd did that, right? Or was it Dreher?
Yeah.
I mean, who fucking cares? They're the same guy. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, and it's
you
like,
need to know the difference between them.
So one side, like, the stalwart conservative fighters have suddenly discovered principles that lead them to literally say that even if the Democrats cheated, it would do so much harm to the country to, overturn the result. We can't do that. Like, we sort of have to tell our little sheeple to get back into the pen. And it's like, you don't see that same sort of principled opposition. So it's actually all going one way. It's very clear that all of this is meant to produce one specific result.
Bipartisan guys out there, the The whole thing about you ain't cheating, you've been trying from the beginning, from the get go. I think everyone knew going into it the two main strategies to win, because both sides I don't know. It doesn't seem like so like political advertising was like a 2000s kind of thing, and people are kind of past that now. That like the only political advertising that works is like they're going to take your guns or shit like that, right? So the main moves that you do is that if you're a Republican, you want to strike. You want to go over the voter rolls with a fine tooth comb. If someone's like hasn't turned in their paperwork, they haven't like there's a minor problem with their license, or whatever. You strike you strike them from the voter rolls. Make it so that they have to burn calories to go re-register, right? And then if you're a Democrat, the obvious thing to get go was just mail people ballots, even if they don't ask, right?
If you feel that the media and the public opinion generation machine was on the side of the Democratic Party, then yes, obviously, because you don't have to burn calories, like you said, to convince people to support you, because that's just they're in the environment. It's floating around in the ether already for them. So yeah, I think
both sides did that, and then it seems like the hard R case for like super cheating is that so there's almost, it seems like there's almost surely ballot stuffing going around, but it's sort of like if you want to challenge that, you have to like prove that it's like more than normal. We'll just set that aside for now. But that like the real like buck nasty cheat would be like there was a phone call across state lines at 4:00 in the morning that said shut it down. Then they calculate how many votes they need, and then they did the drop.
I mean, there's no question that you like it physically could be done. Like just looking at the way this voting machines work, you could do it if you had the balls to do it.
Yeah.
Which is like that's the problem. Like if voting. Okay, if voting is as important as we pretend it is every 4 years, then our voting system is insane, because it's set up in a way that anyone who really cares enough could change the outcome of an election. And I remember you guys remember in 2000, or you might not, Malcolm, but in 2004 we had a contentious presidential election between Kerry and Bush, and I voted against Bush. I didn't like Bush. But it's like people kind of accuse this stuff about the Diebold machines that the election was stolen, and a lot of people didn't believe that. But it was like I thought it was unlikely, because like you could see the way Bush could have won won re-election. But it's like I didn't rule it out either, because I mean, why not? If voting is just a legitimization mechanism, then you'd be crazy to give that control to the plebs, right?
Yeah, like
Kissinger said.
Yeah, and legitimating mechanisms are just collapsing in the U.S. like all over the fucking place, and people sort of there's a lot of just like bullshit going around where suddenly everyone's a lawyer, everyone like knows that actually like Rudy Giuliani saying that no, we're not alleging fraud in this case, we're just throwing out illegal ballots. Oh, that means that he's not saying fraud happened. Like, no, fuck it. Like, a court process works by you stating at the outset like what sort of law you draw upon and what sort of result you want. And so, like, if you want to throw out ballots because they're illegal, like, unless you have another specific aim, then no, you're not going to fucking argue fraud. You're just going to say, well, it doesn't matter if they're fraudulent or not, they're illegal. And so there's a lot of this sort of just muddles the waters of what is the real threat right now, like the real threat Donald Trump poses, which is that it's pretty clear, if we're being serious, that like a lot of things in the US, like a lot of things, the legitimacy is a lot more rickety than like the official story, and it's held together by duct tape. And the duct tape is essentially a detente between the oligarchy, like the various groups within the oligarchy, to essentially not do anything to tear down the curtain. And Trump is just saying, let's find out together how much dirt there is under this carpet. Like, I'm gonna say, fuck you, Nixon, just because you don't want to wreck the country to prove a point. I will do it.
They kind of did that to Nixon eventually, though. I mean,
Yeah.
the things that objectively what he did in Watergate was like, they say Johnson found out about him communicating with North Vietnam during the '68 election because Johnson was wiretapping Nixon's campaign, and that was why Johnson couldn't really call him out for it publicly because so.
Do you remember when I asked you, like, when we were like 17 or 18? I was like, explain to me how this is like bad enough to get kicked out.
Yeah, I remember you asking me that. We were talking about like, well, he really, I gave you the wrong answer at the time, but something like, well, he got in trouble because he lied. He tried to destroy evidence. Like, no, actually, he did something that pissed the CIA off. It's really what happened.
Yeah, I mean.
By the way, so Laura, okay, I just wanted to clean up one of these points we just went past with the recount in Florida. So they made a movie about that. Laura Dern played this character, Catherine Harris. I don't know if you remember it. So she was the one that certified the Bush victory, and after that, and so the role that she had was like a very small role. It was like I don't even know if it was elected office. But after that, she like ran for elected office on the thing of like, did I did I help him cheat or not? I don't know. Sorry. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, like, at this point, it's the true sort of danger facing the U.S. and, like, no fucking bullshit standards of evidence by, like, Twitter jurists saying, affidavits, they're not evidence, they're hearsay. Like, fuck off. You don't even know what that word means. But no Twitter jurist is going to sort of change the meat of the issue here, which is that the American oligarchy is at this point so divided that they can't put down a member saying, I will win my fights within the oligarchy by breaking the iron rule. I will invite the plebs, and I will force the plebs, or ask the plebs, or let the plebs, allow the plebs, to force the Republicans to not back down, which is what has happened, essentially. Nobody wants this situation. Like, no fucking Republican politician likes having a gun to their head, being more afraid of what will happen if they surrender than what will happen if they fight.
Absolutely. Yeah. Being Logo made that point, and I think it's obvious that if you're any kind of Republican politician, unless you came in under like that Q party or whatever, then you have less power. It's worse being tied to this guy Trump, and that's good for voters and stuff, but not good for them. In other words, they would like they would like to stab him in the back. However, like what people want, and this is one thing that I don't know if we'll talk about it here so much, but like Trump's intentions, they don't really matter that much. Yeah. A politician is kind of the locus of other people, their representative figure, right? So they're not really in control. And in terms of like, he could say like, well, I just want to quit. But even then, like, so like, tell me like they don't want this to go on. Like this is just a plan to be an advertisement. Yeah, same. I mean, this is no different than any other situation. World War One was started about by people who thought like this was just going to be that has really nothing to do with it.
Yeah, like there's a great story, and I now wonder if it's true or it's one of those apocryphal stories about the kayak. The Austria-Hungary ultimatum to Serbia was like a ultimatum that was intended to not be accepted.
Yeah.
And they accepted it at the last minute. And the Kaiser heard about this, like, oh, great. That means we're not going to have war. Awesome. Things don't. But however, in this case, it's like, yeah, I get that. But it's looking now like he would have to get members of state legislatures or, like, Congress itself to overturn the certified results. I'm not saying that they're legitimate or not legitimate, but when they get certified, that's the certified results, and he would have to basically be overturned. And I don't think that he has the juice to do that. I'm not sure that he wants to do that because he's never been like I'm about accruing power guy. He's just,
That's true, but the members of he invited the Michigan guys to the White House this weekend, so.
Yeah.
I actually agree with Marek, but I actually think that makes it even worse. Like, it doesn't make this crisis just puttering out more likely. It actually makes it less likely for a fairly simple reason, which is that, like, there's been a lot of court cases being dismissed that are essentially injunctions to like stop counting or stop certification or stuff like that. And all of it has been sort of dismissed, and most of those cases have not been coming from the Trump campaign. But if you listen to, like, what's her name? That lawyer who's on Newsmax all the time, who leads the sort of legal effort. She and
Sidney Powell.
Yeah, Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani. Like, what they're essentially saying, and like these.
That's that lady Merrick was telling me had size 14 feet. Continue.
Damn. Okay, well, no, I know that. I don't really know what to do with the information, but I'll
some of our fans.
You're welcome, guys. You're welcome.
There you go. Continue.
But what they're essentially saying that their deal is, it's not injunctions, and it's not even like overturning a result on technicalities. What they're saying is that they will prove and they will have some sort of almost like a RICO sting, and show that there's actually like organized fraud going on. And according to their own sort of summary of the evidence, and here I don't really agree with Tucker saying that, oh, well, you didn't send us all the evidence, that just means that you don't have any. Like, if you fucking have especially like a non-civil proceeding, you're not supposed to send in a bunch of evidence beforehand.
That doesn't matter, and I'll explain why after you're done.
Oh, yeah, well, my point is just that their plan is essentially to show that fraud took place, there were people with names and addresses doing it, at which point, from a legal perspective, it makes everything really, really bad. Because there's like this Supreme Court case, and also, I can't remember the name of the sort of legal principle, but essentially, like, if you sort of dump fraud, like spoiled ballots, into a tub of ordinary ballots, and you say, haha, I've removed all identification, you can no longer tell the fraudulent ballots from the real one. You can't prove that this or this ballot is fraudulent. Like, you can't then say, well, I can't prove that any specific ballot is fraudulent. I guess I just have to accept everyone because I failed the standard of proof. No, that's not how it works. You throw out everything, essentially. Because, like, for reasons that should be obvious, you can't accept something like that. But the bigger point is just that if you then, and this ties into the sort of Twitter thread that Bog Beef mentioned earlier, if you have people who are essentially in really, really hot water, risking going to jail for electoral fraud, And you say, well, according to the rules, Biden still won. Yeah, we may have cheated, and, we may see people going to jail for stealing the election, but rules are rules are rules. That shit is essentially just slaughtering all of the legitimacy of not just the Biden presidency, but of the system itself. At which point, it becomes really, really fucking hard for a governor who said, well, I certified this election and that's the rules. There may have been fraud and I may have sort of tailored my audits to make sure that we didn't detect the fraud, but now the cat is out of the bag. But you can't be mad at me because I follow the rules. I'm sorry, but the you can't be mad at me thing is wishful thinking at that point.
Well, you can be mad, but what are you going to... What they're saying is you can be mad about it, but what are you going to do about it? I want to talk... You mentioned Tucker Carlson, and I wanted to bring this up because I had a conversation with someone about this yesterday. And so I've said things about... complimentary things about Tucker, because Tucker Carlson kind of... When Trump became president, he shifted his brand a little bit. He ditched the bow tie and the libertarian stuff and started out, trying to throw in a little populism. And so on a show recently, he said that Sidney Powell's claims about the election are less credible than UFO stories. Pretty much, he pretty much said that he's not seen any evidence from her stuff that it has any grounding, and that she refused to send him any, and basically this is bullshit. So I want to tell you why that. So there's two possibilities here. One is that Tucker Carlson is stupid, and he thinks that his job is to be a journalist, in the sense like Michael Tracy's a journalist, or Glenn Greenwald, Like these are people who, whatever, you might like them, you might not like them, but they do seem like guys who really think their job is to find the truth and tell you about it, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If Tucker Carlson believes that, he's an idiot. That's not his job. He has the most popular cable news shows on TV. He is a public opinion creator. He is a factory that produces public opinion. He's ostensibly a pro-Trump Republican, right? And he's using his platform to do what? To tell his viewers that, well, this thing that you're doing right now to maintain control of the executive branch, it's nonsense. So either he's an idiot, or he's not using his platform for the thing that you want him to use it for. And here's the thing: you've already got CNN, NBC, whatever. You have all these different outlets who are telling you the same thing. You don't need a Fox News if the people on Fox News are going to create public opinion that runs contrary to your political goals.
Yeah.
So fuck Tucker Carlson. Everyone should stop watching his show. He should be deathly afraid after making this move. Right. Everyone on Fox should be.
I gotta defend him. Angela told me about the lobster spread they had over there. So
nice.
Okay, so here's the defense. Okay, his real job is he's a broadcaster,
right? And
he approached them. He wanted the fucking exclusive. He wanted them to lay out their case on his show, and he wanted it to happen on his show, right? This is a guy. I mean, like, if you look at the things he's gone through, like the Antifa at his house and shit, he didn't do that because of his commitment to democracy. He did that because he's a competitive guy, and he wants to have the best fucking TV. He wants to dominate whatever he's doing, right? I'm not one of these people that thinks that I won't have a conversation about him having a career in politics unless he shows any interest in that, because
this sure makes it seem like he doesn't have an interest in it.
Yeah,
this is a TV show guy, and he wanted the fucking exclusive. By the way, I loved. I thought Matt Stoller had a bunch of good ideas. He doesn't want to come on Good Old Boys. I have different opinions. I'm starting to nitpick things he says now. You know what I'm saying?
And that's
He wanted the exclusive. They wouldn't give it to him. Now, Sidney Powell is going on Hannity and shit, and that pisses him off, and it should.
Yeah, I mean,
there you
sure.
go.
But like the sort of reaction, I think is telling, and not only in the sense that viewers are abandoning Fox, and now even Tucker Carlson's show, which was sort of
that's real.
The exception that proved the rule. But also that, you know, you have Washington Post writing, "Dear MAGA people, please don't abandon Tucker." And it's like, this is the iron law of oligarchy playing out again. Because the one thing that an oligarchy cannot tolerate, like they can be at each other's throats with daggers drawn, they can kill each other on the Senate floor, whatever, but they will not tolerate outsiders muscling in. And so you saw this thing in Sweden with like, you know, neoliberals and libertarians really hating the socialists and social democrats. And then you had the refugee crisis, which caused a sort of precipitous decline in trust in the media. And you had all these alternate media sites popping out. And suddenly, like, the fucking hatchet got buried in 5 seconds. And you had like, neoliberals going on, you know, podcasts with, like, the social democrat / socialist / Marxist saying, "Oh, well, we're all in the same boat together against these fucking racists. Am I not right? Like, we have to stop all the fake news. We have to stop all these, like, essentially Newsmax. Like, we have to ban Parler, all of that stuff." And it doesn't really work.
Well, that's what's okay. So if all these people, by the way, so the Fox viewership is dropping like a rock.
I don't know if it's dropping like a rock. It's going down. Newsmax had like 10 times the ratings in the last week.
Have you ever seen OANN?
No.
It's like memory TV for white people.
That's a reference that flies over my head. Sorry.
Memory TV. You've seen the memes like memory TV like the. I think it's something ridiculous like
memory TV.
Yeah. Where it's like by God, he's Albanian.
Oh yeah, shit. Okay, no, I got it.
It's memory for white.
Okay, like. There was a point in the election where, like, it was, I didn't know what to think, and I was getting weird views. I was like, well, let me check in, like, with, like, let's see what the hardcore people say. And it was like, is Trump going to concede? I don't know. It's kind of dicey. I flipped over to OANN, and they were discussing how long Biden's prison term is going to be. And they were like, well, we got him on these charges and those charges. It was wild. And that's where they're going to go, by the way.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't mean to push this sort of metaphor too far. I just state that as a caveat in case people get the wrong idea. But if you read up on, like, how the sort of, the Balkan War started and Yugoslavia fell apart. And this is pretty usual in, like, federations devolving into civil war. Essentially, like, the Serbs tried to abolish the electoral college, or its equivalent, saying that, well, okay, according to the rules, we call all the shots now because we have a majority here and here and here. And then at one point, the Croats just say, like, we're not going to return your phone calls anymore. And the Serbs say, oh, well, you have to, like, it's the rule of law. And the Croats just say, well, fuck your rule of law. We don't care anymore. Well, this is treason. This is sedition. What are you going to do about it? And, like, at one point, like, there's a catastrophic sort of decline in respect for sort of official authority. And once that decline starts, it's very hard to reverse. At which point everything sort of becomes about, like, what can I force the other guy to do? And so what I'm not saying is that, like, we're going to have sort of remove kebab in Oklahoma or whatever, and you're going to have a guy being memed on for like drinking a lot of water, but instead you kind of see a similar thing here with like Parler and Newsmax, where everyone is like, no, you can't go. Like, you can't abandon like our platforms. And everyone's like, well, yes, we can. And so people are starting to talk about, well, Google should step in and sort of ban Parler or whatever. But at that point, it just becomes like, how much force do I have? What can I force people to do? And once you're in that position, like, conflict is inevitable. Oh, so, like, Marek, you can just debunk me like Snopes.com here if you think I'm just talking up my ass. It's
Nobody other than people who live there want New York and California to decide how everything works in this country.
Yeah.
They're fucking. I mean, California is dysfunctional.
yeah,
We can't go that way. If you got rid of the Electoral College, that's it for America. It's done.
yeah.
Because. And like, whenever you hear shit about the
Well,
people,
what do you mean by done? You explain that, because not everybody's going to understand that.
I live in Virginia, so let me tell you firsthand. We had an election in 2018, and the East Coast California Party took over, and we got you're going to get all these fun new little laws. I mean, some of them might sound appealing to some of our more left wing audiences, but like that's.
You started stockpiling guns and ammunition immediately after they.
Yes, gun ownership eventually gone. Like they tried immediately to pass this, like, one of the would have been the strictest gun laws in the United States. Gas tax.
It'll be hard to keep the country together.
Yeah.
Well, but in Virginia, it's kind of our own fault, because we're right outside the MP. Like, the reason Virginia votes the way it does now is because you have all these bureaucrats, people who work for the empire, who live in like Arlington and Fairfax, and like that. I can't complain too much, because it's not like that the call is coming from inside the house. I'm just saying, just look at the problems California has. They can't keep the fucking lights on. They have They have problems with the electrical grid, and then at the same time they're trying to create more. Fuck that. Cut that. Who cares? They can't keep the lights on. That's all that counts. If your fucking state is like one of the largest economies in the world, and you can't, you have rolling fucking brownouts like a third world country. Like, that tells you exactly what you need to know right there.
They have third world tent cities as well.
It seems like the policies that they pursue produce a lot of income inequality.
Yes, great fucking example in Virginia. One of the first things they tried to do was to essentially ban single unit housing. Like, you could they wanted to discourage people from building houses for just your family to live in. You need to have high density.
Oh my god!
And
I thought Alex Jones ranting about that was just something he dreamt up.
No, they were really pushing that, and like the whole idea is, what he just said, income inequality. So you can build little tenements for your slave people who cater to your Zoom lifestyle while you no longer have to commute on I-95. You can just Zoom into work at your job, like at the drone bombing factory, and then you get people delivering stuff to you who live in squalid little tenements, and like that's nobody. No one wants to live that way. Like, people who come to this country from Guatemala don't come here because they want to live in a tenement and deliver Thai food to those people.
Yeah.
Like, the ones who come here and want to stay here, they want to do what the rest of us want to do. It's buy a fucking house, have their own property, have their own lives, and you're not going to get that from the California Party. You're not going to get that from any of what our friends on the left and right call the neoliberal order. That's the exact opposite of what they're promising you. it's so frustrating to when I hear people who should know better complain about the Electoral College. Motherfuckers, it's the only thing right now keeping you from one of those like little Davos news articles about how, hey, guess what? In the future, you're not going to own shit. You're going to rent your fucking toilet paper from Amazon.com.
We're not even going to get that far because it's all going to fucking collapse like a house of cards. I have to say, like, this entire Trump thing has really sort of separated the wolves from the sheep in sort of political acumen, I would say. Like, I have friends who I used to respect who I just can't respect anymore, like politically. And that's not because, oh, well, you know, don't you see that the globalists are just stealing everything, blah, blah, blah. Haven't you heard about the Great Reset? No, it's not about that. It's not about, like, whether you like Trump or not, or whether you think he should remain president. Not even about whether the election was, like, actually stolen or not. But what really makes me lose respect for someone's sort of political understanding is when they say, like, oh, well, you know, 50% of the US population or whatever thinks that it's somewhat likely or very likely that, like, this election was fraudulent. But we will just educate those people.
Yeah.
Or we will just scold those people.
Is there any better phrase for the modern world than fact-checking? Yeah. I love that because now I know when you tell me you're fact-checking something, I can immediately discount everything you say.
I mean, like, this is a retard-level understanding of politics, and I don't mean this in, like, you know, the pejorative way. I mean it quite literally. You have to be, like, mentally deficient to look at politics in this way. No,
that's not true. That's not true. I don't agree with that. This is a very simple thing. This is like, you know, we used to have a what we call the West used to be called Christendom. We had this Christian morality system, blah blah blah. Yeah, Enlightenment happened, but it's still there. We replaced that. Now it's like kind of a secular scientific one, and like the only thing that you can base that on now are you got to have objective facts. You got to base everything on the facts. So if you know what the facts are, then you can do things correctly. And the closer you are to understanding the facts, the better things are. So this is like you're doing so. It's a sin to tell people a fake fact.
Oh yeah,
that's heresy.
I don't disagree with that point at all. I think that, as you're saying, like, you know, fact-checking, science, I fucking love science, all of that is part of the legitimation process for our political system. But the point about, like, being a retard, just let me give you a specific example here. During the Springtime of Nations in Europe in 1848, you had this sort of uprising in Vienna, you know, against the absolute like monarchy, imperial rule, for some sort of constitutional monarchy. And so you have this old fox Metternich, and then you have the emperor, who is quite literally, like, mentally feeble. Like, he has some sort of Down syndrome or something. Like, we don't know, but it's something like that. Like, he was quite obviously an idiot. And they're looking at, like, all of these fucking riots and protests and so on from the window, and the guy asks, what are they doing? And Metternich then tells him, well, they're organizing a revolution to depose you. And he just thinks about that for a minute, and then he says, but are they allowed to do that?
Really?
This is like half of the liberal class today. Like,
I've never heard that anecdote before.
No, yeah, like it's
Can they do that?
so fucking funny because, like, I fact checked you. I linked to Snopes.com. And people say, well, I don't give a shit about your fact-checking anymore. You know, I get all my news from memory TV for white people. And the lib just says, but are you allowed to do that? Like, this is a faulty understanding of power. Like, sure, legitimation strategies based on fucking loving science. Like, that's all well and good. But you have to understand, as with any sort of legitimation system, that once like 50% of the population says, okay, well, I'm not part of this. Like once the Croats stop responding to your phone calls and say, well, that's your law, it's not ours anymore. You have a huge problem. You can't solve that by scolding. You can't solve that by saying...
that's true. They are going to reach a point where they're not going to be able to do that anymore.
Yeah.
But the logical next step is to just you can make it illegal to do that. Just use naked power. Man, who was it that there was some? It was some. I seen people, somebody, some right wing guy on Twitter, like quoting it. It was like, you have these states are built on these ideas, and if they're lies, then eventually people stop believing in them, and then all that's left is you're just going to have to enforce them with brute force violence.
Yeah, but the brute force violence situation, and this is something we should a topic we should stay on for a couple of minutes, because it's actually fairly fascinating. But I would argue that like the brute force situation, in all respects, it's catastrophic. It's a fucking toothpick house. Like it's like everything else in like California or large parts of the U.S. It's like rusting at the foundations. So, friend of the podcast, Marty McMarty, thinks that like we're living in essentially a period where like the ability for elites to guide and control ideas and sort of politics it's basically non-paralleled. And on its face, it seems pretty like reasonable, because people in the Middle Ages, they didn't have Twitter, they didn't have Facebook, blah blah blah. So like there's been a lot of novelties, obviously. But it's actually, in my view, like the other way around. Like if you take the Soviet Union, all the official channels for disseminating information, like the amount of control over them was 100%. Like if you wrote that, like these show trials, they're not really real, and Stalin is killing millions of people and sending them to like labor camps in Siberia, like you wouldn't get like a notification saying this claim about there being gulags is disputed by independent fact checkers. Like you would die. And I don't mean like you would get killed in Minecraft or whatever. Like you would get taken to a basement with a slanted fucking floor and a drain, so that after each execution you can just take a water hose and just hose all the blood away. Like shot in the head. Next customer. And your editor would be shot in the head too for allowing you to write something that's like dangerous. And the thing is, like what people have to understand is that like the methods of disseminating information between human beings has not really, like the primary method, like the broadband connection, it hasn't really changed during the last 10,000 years. And that's social relations. Like talking with your family, shooting the shit with the boys out on a fishing trip, in some factory break room, just discussing. Like that's how people transmit political ideology, transmit news, opinions, all of that good shit. Like when we imagine that Silicon Valley has some sort of vice-like grip thanks to algorithms, like I'm sorry, they can't really deal with the problem that the Soviet Union had, which is that Pravda would print some sort of article saying that our independent researchers have shown that there's never been any single complaint about the standard of living in the Soviet Union. And someone would read that at like the Tractor Factor break room. Do you hear that, Olga? Scientists now claim there's not a single complaint to be found anywhere in the Soviet Union. Olga, do you agree? And Olga just laughs. And then like, Ivan, I've heard you complaining, but scientists have now debunked you. You don't exist. And Ivan just shrugs. Like, you can't really deal with that.
I'm going to argue against that.
Okay.
Two things. The first kind of an antidote. Okay, Soviet Union is a great example. just recently, in the past year or two, I think there was a movie about was it New York Times or Washington Post, some big American newspaper, I believe. Guy who was like one of the first people in the West to break the story, to actually go to the Ukraine and cover the famine, and the one of the more prestigious reporters at his newspaper tried very hard to quash it, because he was like one of those he's one of those American like progressive guys who's a fan of Stalin. And he said, like, oh, this is fake news, and blah, blah, blah. So, you know, the thing is, Stalin would have to shoot you in the face. If you were the hegemonic power, you might not necessarily do that. And here's one way you can. That's different. What you were just talking about is different than the past. Yeah, in the past, you couldn't put microphones everywhere. You couldn't listen to everything that everyone was saying. Increasingly, yes, you can do that, because people communicate how? They communicate by their phones. They communicate, especially online and text, which is very easy, which they might already have the ability to just record everything that everyone in the United States messages to each other and parse it and with an algorithm, and you could probably hunt down wrongthink pretty quickly. So if we move away from two people sitting in a room bullshitting to like we're doing right now, speaking to each other over miles of fiber optic cables and satellite connections. Yeah, you could in theory, if technology allows, listen in on everything, and then I heard, guess what, a bog beef at the office, we heard that you were saying some problematic things in this podcast with a guy from Sweden and a guy from Virginia,
Yeah.
Here at Beef Co, we can't really tolerate this kind of divisive and racist. You said memory TV for white people. That sounds racist. Yeah, security's going to escort you out of the office tomorrow.
I think it's a good thing you actually bring up that point, because it's sort of one I thought about including, because it's actually sort of strengthened my case, even though it may seem weird. But first, the thing about like the Ukrainian famine, obviously you can sort of you can suppress information if there's not really any interest in like the lunchrooms, to like how many people in American lunchrooms fucking care about like what happened in the Ukraine 100 years ago. So like that sort of broadband connection is not even in effect. And at that point it's very easy to sort of control what information passes around. Like if you wanted to tell boomers that there's only 150 Pokemon, like you would succeed, because none of them actually care about how many Pokemon exist. Neither do I, because like the 151, they're the only real ones. But anyway, but the other point about technology, like now we have sort of algorithms and data sorting and so on. Well, the point there is actually just that I remember some Stasi agent, like the East German Secret Service, saying like, oh man, the wonders we could have achieved if we had lived in like the 2000s and the East Germany hadn't fallen. Like we would have done so many great things. Like it's wasted on the Americans. But the reason he means it's wasted on the Americans, all of this big tech, is because like East German security or secret police crap, and the same thing with the Soviet Union. Like this was a huge sector of society. Like I can't remember how many percent of like East Germans were actually like paid by the state essentially to act as spies. And the problem, and this ties into why I mean that like in terms of like ideological control, like everything Silicon Valley does, it's a fucking like toothpick house, because you need like thousands of people, like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands in the US to sort through information if you want to achieve a similar level of control that was achieved like behind the Iron Curtain. You need boots on the ground, essentially. and there are no boots on the ground to be found. Like, all algorithms and stuff like that. It's like, this is why we don't have to employ like 5% of the US population to spy on their neighbors, because we have computer programs now.
Well, you also have crazy people on. You see them all the time on Twitter who, for free, police the discourse and will act like Stasi and report you to the HR, to report you to Twitter, Facebook, or whatever. And their ranks are going to keep growing, especially with this elite overproduction problem that you and Marty like to talk about.
Yeah, but how many of those people, essentially, like, how vulnerable would you say people living in your community are to them if they just keep off like Twitter or whatever?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like,
but how long is that going to last? Everybody, I mean, even people who live here around me, like, they use their cell phone and text each other a lot. You know, they get on Facebook and talk to each other a lot. I mean, I think that as time goes on, you're going to see more and more. That's going to become a bigger problem for everyone, unless you're like Amish or Mennonite or something.
Yeah, though, I mean, the things you would have to do to essentially, keep below the radar, in terms of, avoiding a Twitter commissar, it's just like not being on Twitter. And that's a step that 95% of America has already taken. Like, all of these things are sort of class bound. And so, like, all of the people who would act as 4chan janitors for ideology belong to, like, they live in fucking California. They don't live in Virginia, like, out in the sticks. But also, like, I think you've seen, like, all of this sort of machismo LARPing regarding, the military is going to kill Trump and all the MAGA-tards, and what the fuck are you going to do about it? Like, libs have been going on a tear, or they've stopped now, but they did that for, like, I don't know, 10 days or whatever.
Sarah Silverman did that, like, the day after the election.
Yeah, they were begging the military to step in.
But that situation is even more fucking atrocious than the whole, like, we'll use the algorithms to make sure that people don't think wrong think, or make sure that they can't transmit that wrong thing. Because, like, how many soldiers does the US have with, like, actual, like, frontline combat duties, essentially? It's not that many. It's far less than people think.
Yeah. The US has, like, a greater ability than most people would think to lock down the metros, and and not nearly as much outside of there. So I think there's a couple incidents I think of. So number one is, do you remember the Boston bombers?
Yeah.
So they shut down. The local PD basically shut down Boston in, like, a matter of like 2 hours. Basically, that was a pretty, like, intense, like, display of, like, the kind of force you would need to do this kind of stuff. Second off, we are seeing, like, there's a lot of people planning for a future, this sort of dystopian future of like super control all the time, which the kind of upkeep it would take is almost inconceivable. But that also, like, that's the incentive for, like, we'd make a shitload of money. In terms of
it right now with bat flu.
Yeah, so, like, if you took, like, so places like Israel, places like France already use this in, like, certain locations where, like, you have checkpoints everywhere and shit, and where's your paperwork? And they don't do where's your paperwork, but you do a little facial scanning and stuff. And if you have facial scanning and you have checkpoints around, and lots of security, I mean, like, we're talking about, like, you would need like 10% more of the males in the United States to have some kind of job standing at a checkpoint with a gun.
Yeah, and like rolling out those checkpoints with like the facial scans and so on through like 50 states, that's going to make Obamacare look like, I don't know, the ascension of Christ and the formation of a perfect kingdom of heaven or
Right.
on
Do
earth.
they have to really do that? Do they have to have checkpoints?
Well, so I think that there are people that are like trying to sell investors in the idea that they could make the United States that.
Yeah.
Do I think that's true? No. I mean, do I think that they'll be able to pull that off? No. But there, I mean, that's certainly like if you went looking for it, you can find people that are like, yeah, we can do this.
I just think that's kind of like, it's looking in the wrong direction. Like we're seeing, we're already in this right now. We just had the governor of the second largest, or was it third, whatever New York is, tell people Christmas is canceled, Thanksgiving is canceled. California might have too. You can't go in, you can't meet people indoors. It's illegal.
Yeah.
And this goes back to the thing like when you talk about the cost of it. Well, just imagine you're in a room with three people that you don't know. You have two choices. You can all get $2. It's $8, or you can get $5 and they don't get shit. Every time they'll be fine with taking a bigger slice of a smaller pie. And that's exactly what's happened with the bat flu, and that's what would happen. It would be a tremendous cost. It'd be huge. It would be hugely wasteful to restructure society this way. But hey, as long as you're the one that's in charge of it, and you're strengthening your grip over it, it's a no-brainer, especially for antisocial pieces of shit.
Yeah, I agree. I think they will try to say, well, give me the $5, I don't care about anything else. But the point here is just like the grip is actually like it's illusory. Sure, if you have like all of these algorithms, that's like a great help to the KGB or the Stasi or whatever. But you sort of have to fund KGB equivalents or Stasi equivalents in order to get anywhere. Because the problem that faces the FBI or like the NSA is not, well, we don't have enough data, we need more tech gizmos to get more data. It's that they don't have enough humans to actually sort through the data. And sure, if I write, like, I am going to, like, the terror attack is planned for Monday. Like, yeah, sure, you can do stuff with, like, automated searches and stuff like that. But if the problem is this much more vague, like, I don't think this guy is actually a full supporter of the Soviet Union. You need to hand canvas that shit to find out, find the traitors in your midst. And I don't
internationally.
think
Sorry.
I just don't think the U.S. has like the resources because it's sort of overstretched in so many ways.
I'm not saying that there's going to be like the CIA or the NSA necessarily has to do it. It could be that way, but okay, international music and somewhat film star got 50 Cent, right? Remember like a month ago when he said, "Man, these tax plans are too fucking high. I don't like this shit." And then immediately everybody in every one of his peers attacked him, and that old ass Chelsea Handler lady made him cuck and apologized for it. The social control doesn't have to be from top down. It can be from your quote unquote peers. And here's the thing: yeah, you can't go to Rockingham County necessarily, maybe and police us. But we don't matter. We're not anybody. We don't have a stake in any of the elite parts of society anyway. Can you do that to like the top 15% of people who actually do, who have the jobs that people want, who are doing the things that keep the machine running? You absolutely could do that, and you have an army of these mentally ill people who aren't good for anything but harassing people for not towing the new line, and they'll do this work for you fucking for free.
Yeah, and so
I was at the grocery store earlier, and I saw a guy that didn't have his COVID vaccine tattooed.
Yeah.
I thought about it, and I ended up calling the the police on him. But
Yeah, the bright side is that before you do get locked up or whatever, if you're a guy, you're going to get tons of ass. Because women will fucking if whatever the bad thing is, there's going to be a strong, sizable part of the female population who will be very happy to deal with you.
Yeah, I knew a neo-Nazi who could not stop getting like unsolicited sort of nude pics from like journalists and stuff in Sweden. Like they would just send him his nudes because they heard he was a neo-Nazi who had been in prison and fought as a mercenary in the Ukraine. And
Merrick knows a lot about tiger tanks, ladies.
Yeah, exactly.
Women are very passionate about National Socialism, or at least the men who.
If you write for like if you write for like Huffington Post or the Baffler or whatever, and you want to talk about the book Siege, ladies, my DMs are open.
There was one of those blue checks did a post like a week ago where they were like, they were like, posting their L's or whatever, and they were like, I've got a problem. I keep hooking up with neo Nazis, and I was thinking like, where do you know them from? Like I'm in the demographic, and like I've never met anyone like that. I know there's some in like jail and shit. Like, where are these hoes meeting? Like straight up neo Nazis and shit. I don't know if it was like fan fiction or what they were talking about, but it was like, I was like, I work at the Washington Post and I've got this big problem. I just keep banging the bejesus out of all these neo Nazis.
Do you think that was how Rich, remember those glowing stories about Richard Spencer being the dapper? Do you think that's because like those progressive media ladies wanted to fuck him?
Well, so it turns out definitely did.
Confirmed.
He was in D.C. He threw parties, and lots of them went to his parties. That's like, yeah.
Yeah, someone wrote a fucking story about that, like how she, like, explored the unresolved sexual tension between her and Spencer, and she didn't like that she didn't hate the fact. And like, he has a super progressive, like, rainbow flag parading, like lib girlfriend now, or at least he had. So I mean, mission successful, I guess.
Hey, Bogbeef, what was the? You remember they used to post a picture of this, like she was kind of a dirtbag left darling. She posted that picture of herself with like the treasure trail. You know what I'm talking about, right? She became famous for matching.
Pizer.
Yeah, matching with Martin Shkreli on Tinder.
He's a married man now, by the way.
Damn.
Did he convert to Islam while he was behind bars?
So we have a question here, a subscriber question that I thought a couple people asked for this. I'd like to address this to Malcolm. They want to know what you think. So they say, I want to know what you think of the Macron strategy. Do you think that will turn out to be a viable path back to power for liberalism?
Also explain the Macron strategy to us, because we're dumb Americans. We don't know what to do.
You have this guy, Emmanuel Macron, right, who it was hailed like 2016 or whatever it was as the sort of savior of liberalism.
Mommy GF guy.
Yeah, he definitely has a fucking mommy GF.
Oh, that's so mean. That makes you dislike him immediately, right? And we're being honest.
Did you see the picture where he's hugging Angela Merkel and his wife is like shooting the dirty eyes? He's like,
yeah, dude, I don't even want to go there, honestly. But yeah,
come on.
Macron was
it takes all kinds.
Yeah, sure. Degeneracy, like, we don't have to like it, but I guess we have to tolerate it.
It's impossible to judge. We cannot judge
everything is beautiful.
It's all beautiful.
And so, but like the Macron strategy, I don't think it's a strategy even. He came into power as this sort of like ultra neoliberal. Because
Like straight from like the only place he's ever worked is like Goldman Sachs.
Unapologetically neoliberal too. He didn't
Yeah.
even disguise it. Time to eat your vegetables, France.
He's worked at like different sort of banks, and then he just went from like finance into like a job as a sort of non-political minister for the government of Hollande. And Hollande basically killed the Socialist Party, as in like the French version of the Democrats, essentially, like center-left party. So Macron came into a situation where the old establishment was falling apart, and he could just gather up the dregs of that establishment and say, we're going to do 100% neoliberalism. We're not going to have any sort of attachment to these old ideologies and so on. And I think that on the merits of that promise of, doing neoliberalism without being attached to the old order, like he's already failed. Because his politics right now has been a sort of pivot towards first of all, like defending France as a sort of nation state with interests, like we need our old colonies back almost, which is not conducive to this sort of like EU global.
That's not how you do neoliberalism.
Yeah.
That's more expensive.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of like, we need Republican virtue and citizenship, and like we can't have these Muslims driving trucks into people, and like we have to have something stabilizing, like, French citizenship, French identity, and so on. I think the real risk is that Macron is going to essentially transition slowly into a sort of Napoleon IV. Because he seems to be enjoying like the Napoleon game far more than he enjoys talking about like France being a startup nation or whatever. Like, so he's kind of like that provincial governor that's always a worry in Rome because he's showing worrying signs of going native.
I love that. That's a great, perfect.
What do you mean? What do you mean by going native?
Essentially,
he's supposed to be a citizen of the world, and he's becoming French.
Yeah, exactly.
It's disgusting.
Saying that, like, I could defend the interests of a sort of international class of people, but I think that's less profitable and less fun than defending the interests of France. And I think that this ties into what we were talking about, like, for the entire episode, which is that the Trump missile crisis is not so much about, like, can he overturn the election? Whether he overturns the election will probably not even end up mattering in the final analysis. What's dangerous here is that he is poised to, like, he might not succeed. Maybe all of that proof is just bullshit and these people are throwing themselves off a cliff like lemmings, but I kind of doubt it. But he might actually reveal that, like, the entire sort of order that, like, the political order that we're all part of, it's so much more rickety, so much more corrupt, so much, like, more sclerotic and decadent than, the average boomer Republican voter in Georgia or whatever has any idea of. And Macron, he plays both sides. He sits on the fence. He could go with, the Great Reset. If the people behind it and the forces arrayed behind that are strong enough, which they obviously are not. But if in 40 years we own nothing and we eat bugs and we live in cubes or whatever, Macron is going to be an administrator of some hive city or whatever. But if the hive city fails to materialize, he's not going to go down with the ship. Like, he's not going to die with the rest of the bugmen, I think. And again, like, the insane division within our elites and the insane weakness shown, that's just like the miracle here is not like Trump might prove that election fraud took place. Like the real warning sign is that there's a fight about this at all.
Yeah.
No functioning oligarchy lets people fight on the premise of upending the basic legitimating story for like 300 million people. It does not happen. It should not happen. Like something is as broken with the American Republic as was broken with the Roman Republic in its last few decades.
She had a good question, so let me cut on the curveball. And so the Macron strategy, as Malcolm outlined, well, I mean, there's precedent for that. We had it in the United States. We had it in the United States not that long ago, like what, 12 years ago? George W. Bush. Wasn't he he was like, okay, he's a neoliberal, neoconservative, same difference. But he also talked a lot about America, and he wore a cowboy hat, but at the same time, all of his policies and everything he did was directed at turning America into like an international shopping mall rather than an actual nation state. So I mean, that could be the Macron strategy, right? You're just he's going to put on the beret and be rude to the waiter, but ultimately he's still going to do the Davos shit that everybody. I mean that's kind of something that they've gone with for a long time, and it has seemed to work. It got them this far, didn't it?
Yeah, but again, as Bob Beef pointed out earlier, politicians have far less control than they would like to admit. Like,
sure.
A good politician is a politician who knows that he's essentially a conduit for other forces, and knows to sort of... It's like a surfer, essentially. Like, you know where the wave is, you know how to ride it, but you don't create the wave, and you have no power to, like, go against it, because you're just going to get really wet if you try to do it. And I think that if you look at what Macron has been doing, he's been forced to back down from a lot of like the neoliberal shit, like crushing unions and so on. Like he's still trying, but like his program has been very frustrated. Let's just say.
The yellow vests were protesting for how long?
I think they're still going on. Yeah. So. You have like the domestic issues, but then you have like the problems with the EU, which is that the EU is essentially it's like a half-formed empire essentially, with Germany at its center, but Germany has no ability and it doesn't have the resources to be like an imperial hegemon. So you have this currency union, which
where's the monarch? Where's the
like the currency union, think about it like the dollar, right? So you have like all of these different states with different economies and like different sort of purchasing powers and all of that crap. And the federal government takes it upon itself to fiscally transfer a lot of resources around from, California to whatever, or from New York to Mississippi, in order to make sure that, like, Mississippi isn't completely strangled by being in a, dollar who is driven by, banks in New York or whatever. The euro is basically having a dollar, but then having a federal government who just says, fuck Mississippi, fuck Alaska, fuck Nebraska, fuck Arizona, fuck Oregon, fuck Virginia, fuck. I could go on. Fuck half of the states or 30 or 45 states or whatever. The fortunes of California, New York, New Hampshire or whatever. Those are the states that matter. Everyone else, they can just not be able to afford heating in the winter or whatever. And Macron is caught between a rock and a hard place because, again, going with the interests of the globalists, quote unquote, would be extremely detrimental to France. And going with the interests of France could, at some point, lead to, going against the EU, essentially hastening its demise. And I think that he's going to be a consummate fence sitter and essentially pick the side that looks most likely to win in all of this stuff.
You name dropped something earlier. I'd like to talk about if we're brave enough. You talked about the Great Reset.
Yeah.
How much do you know about that?
Yeah, it's essentially that sort of position paper / book by the founder of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, I think his name is. And it's become sort of a meme. Maybe even Justin Trudeau came up with like the term the Great Reset before like someone wrote a book about it.
Bogbeef had a great tweet that like Lauren Southern or somebody stole. It was a tweet. It was like the first tweet was somebody like the New York Times saying a right wing conspiracy about the Great Reset resurfaces, and then the one on the right was like the same newspaper talking about we need a Great Reset for the new economy.
Yeah. So I think it's like my most viral tweet ever. So, like my only, right? So, Amy Therese of What's Left was had some tweets about the Great Reset, right? And so I was like, okay, let me check out what's the Great Reset. So I go to Google, I type in Great Reset, and you get a suite of options. You get things to click on, and at first it gives you the news headlines, side by side, block to block, right next to each other. It said, here's the news. It said both of them came in today. These are hot off the wire. The one on the left was from the World Economic Forum. It says, here's the Great Reset. It's going to happen. It's going to be beautiful. We're going to push it through. This is the Great Reset. On the right, it was from the New York Times, and it said this ugly anti-Semitic conspiracy theory called the Great Reset has reared its head again, and we're going to debunk it for you. This thing doesn't exist, and that was
yeah. It just shows how sort of jumbled everything is, and how like fully the mechanisms of consent manufacture have collapsed. Let's just say. Because if you're saying that, the Great Reset, it doesn't exist, like, what the fuck are you doing? It's not even that people are saying, the Great Reset is just, like, if you read all the letters backwards, you get the Elder Council of Zion or the Hibernian Archdruid Council or whatever. People are just talking about the Great Reset in terms of, like, here's this guy who essentially arranges the Davos economic forum each year. Then he says that we need a far-reaching reset to economy and to how we view things like property, the law, social relations, all that stuff. And we don't really agree with his prescriptions. And the media is caught trying to sort of denounce, what are they fighting against? They're not fighting a war of facts. They're fighting a war against, you have opinions, or in the parlance of 4chan, stop liking things I don't like.
You got to hold still. You have to let them eat you, basically. This is like the thing where this is I've read a lot of the complaints. The people are like, there's you're saying, first off, one of the basic implications of talking about it in a derogatory way is that you're sort of implying there's an Illuminati. And yes, I will cede that. Basically, if there are people making decisions about the global economy and they're all in the same room at Davos, that's functionally, there's no difference between that and Illuminati. Okay, so this is yes. Okay, well, we basically do have Illuminati. Psychonauts are well, these are things that they already want. Yeah, they are. However, this is a package of. This is they've. It's a reorganization and a lot of money. It could just be like a sales pitch to a bunch of billionaires. Because one of the things that they're promising is that this is one of the the fucked up things is one of the things they're promising in this package, and most of the package is like it's all this. It's all that you're gonna not own anything. It's gonna be beautiful and blah blah blah. But one of the things that they promise is it's weird. They put this in the promotional material. It's like why am I reading this? Shouldn't you just say this in the room of like in the room with the guys with cigars and the champagne? But they say that like it'll be there. The threat of populist uprising will be gone forever. Once we put in this suite of packages, that could just be. It sounds like. This is something they sell these rich guys, kind of like the.
Well, that's the thing. It's not directed at us. But it is directed at. There's a percentage of people who are reading that they're not in the Davos meeting, but they're on board with this plan. And they're right about the populism thing, by the way. You can break the back of international populism by just destroying all the kulaks in every country at one time, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing I'm just struck by here is that when you read stuff like the Great Reset and like their descriptions of what will happen politically once we just put in this epic program of abolishing private property forever, which every time it's been tried, it's been a great success. I heartily recommend it. Like. It's never been any problems with abolishing all private property for like the majority of the people. So like just another. This is going to be just as big of a smashing success as every other time it's been tried. But you kind of realize that you sort of have to fight your own disbelief because first you think like there's no way these people can be this stupid, right? Everyone's going to live in a pod. Nobody's going to eat meat. People are going to be force-fed bugs.
Yes, come on. How many people do you see on social media who are, at prestigious white-collar jobs in the cities who fucking love this idea? Yeah. They're on board for it.
Yeah, and it's like, but the problem here is that they're saying that, like, once we get everyone in a pod... And once everyone realizes that property, that's just bullshit. Like, we should just have some unnamed people who own everything, and everyone else just, lives there. Which is not that different from being a sharecropper, let's say. Like, like if we just
wow, Malcolm, I'm worried about you, buddy.
I mean, if we just peel back all of the fucking sort of Silicon Valley, it's going to be so
great. Here comes
great.
the
like,
crook.
We're white Southern guys. I'm not touching that shit.
No, but everyone should be essentially like
a serf. Yeah,
a serf.
feudal serf.
Bound by some fucking like contract of indentured servitude or like debt peonage or whatever, and they shouldn't have any property, and they should just be like totally left to sell their labor power with no rights to essentially or no ability to escape that, and then they say, and once everyone's a serf, political conflict will cease to exist. And you kind of realize that, no, this isn't 11-dimensional chess. These people really are like the last of the Bourbons. They really are that fucking stupid and sort of out of touch. And this is essentially the great success of social and media and social media censorship. I don't know if you've ever seen... The X-Files, one of the Monster of the Week episodes, Pusher, if you remember that guy. The guy who had a brain tumor, and that tumor gave him power to sort of influence people. And so Pusher doesn't really have mind control so much as he has an extreme form of mental suggestion. And basically, like, he kills a cop by talking to him about all of the burgers he eats and, like, eating too much cholesterol can lead to a heart attack, right? And then he gets a heart attack and dies. But at another point, he sort of escapes custody by they're in a car, right?
Yeah, the truck. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and he just sort of uses his suggestion to erase the truck. And the guy just drives into the road and the car gets fucking totaled. And, like, social media censorship is basically pusher, saying, like, cerulean blue is like a clear breeze, cerulean blue is like a clear breeze, to PMCs, who then essentially block out the existence of half the country. And if they're reminded that, like, all of these shoulds exist, then they just go, oh, well, we'll just send in the army to kill them all. Like, it will be done in an afternoon. The army will just shoot them with, you know, Tomahawk missiles or whatever the fuck. And again, like, elites who are gravely dysfunctional and decadent sort of create all of these mechanisms to not to change reality, they've given up on that long ago, but to filter reality to the point where, like, nothing that they disagree with ever enters their bubble. This was a huge problem with the Tsar in Russia, for example. Like, there's correspondence saved, and whenever they're talking about like the huge strikes and the anger over the war with Japan that they just get fucking bodied in, the Tsar and his family, they just say, well, all of these people complaining, first of all, they don't exist, and second of all, the complainers, they're not real Russians. All the real Russians, they really love the Tsar. Like, now that I mention it, I'm just struck by the latter days, like the end times of the Russian Empire, was essentially like MAGA, the discourse about MAGA, except inverted. So the Tsar is basically saying, oh, well, you have all of these fucking liberals who love science, but they're a tiny minority. But the real Russians, all of them wear MAGA hats, except, you know, like, make absolutism great again. Like, they don't know how to read, they live on the farm, and they really love us, and like, all of these, like, disruptive elements are just a minority who are essentially just irrelevant. And in the US today, it's rather that all of the people in California, they're the real people, but all of the people in, you know, rural Virginia, they're not real at all.
No.
Only real people, like, there's 100% support for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris among real people. Like, this is how empires end.
I've been looking at this, trying to. I wanted to get like a little line, like, so we could say, all right, here's what conspiracy theorists say about the Great Reset, and here's what people who are like actually for it. And none of the, basically nobody who ostensibly is on the side of the World Economic Forum ever explains to you what the Great Reset would actually mean, even though it was like the name of a proposal. All I see is stuff about carbon trading and stuff like that. But here, Trudeau said it. And and now I completely understand. Let me see if you let me read it to you and let you guys hear it. Bog beef. Building back better means giving support to the most vulnerable while maintaining our momentum on reaching the 23 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the SDGs. Canada is here to listen and help. This pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset. This is our chance to accelerate our pre-pandemic efforts to reimagine our economic systems that actually address global challenges like extreme poverty and decline. Blah, blah. The Patriots networks we're already doing, we're going to do that even more. We're going to take all your shit and we're going to give it to the people who support us. Part of that means we're going to
justify it by. He tells you how they're going to justify it.
Yeah, we're going to ship. You know, hey, look, we gotta keep developing industry in third world countries. We're going to have to do this. We're going to have to do carbon trading. With carbon trading is like, and all these various Green New Deal schemes are great because some of them are so like Trudeau here's obviously he said Great Reset. I imagine they don't like that because you can't like they said at one time in the title of this World Economic Forum proposal, and then like they just you never see them saying it again. It's only people who hate it talking about the Great Reset. So I guess he fucked up. It would be like saying like Zog if you were the Illuminati.
I think they're going to talk about it on the next Davos meeting. But like the Great Reset for Dummies is essentially two parts. The first part is, as you pointed out, it's just patronage. It's just here, write up some fucking talking points about Agenda 23 or whatever. Because you're a useless fail son and there's no real jobs for you. But the other half is essentially a plan or a suggestion or a opening for debate to sort of move societies, Western societies, towards a new. First of all, you're already seeing essentially. Like in the old Roman Republic, like the citizen soldiers are out to war, they come back and all of their farms have been bought by senators, like members of the senatorial class, and turned into like huge latifundiae, and then you have like a social crisis because now you have like a surplus population that's been economically dispossessed. Well, COVID is doing the same to middle classes and working people all over the fucking place. And so I guess one part of the Great Reset is, once we have the pods and the state-mandated bug protein rations, all of these people will be just like the plebs of Rome with their bread and circuses, which is, not completely, the wrong way to think about it. It's just totally unrealistic. And they sort of also want to, I guess they want to find some sort of model for how we can export California everywhere, and also make sure that the constantly growing homeless camps don't lead to political unrest. Spoiler alert, they will. And the elites will not be able to handle that unrest. This is basically the last days of Nazi Germany, when they're like, things are not going so well on the Eastern Front, we need a solution. How about making a tank that weighs 5,000 million tons or whatever, so that no weapon can penetrate it? Okay, so where will we get the steel for this tank? I don't know. What will happen if you, how will you transport a tank? It's too heavy. It can't even drive on a road without, getting bogged down because it's crushing the road and turning it into basically mud. I don't know.
But they just tell them okay, and then they go to another room and they're okay.
They make one of those tanks to keep Hitler happy, and everyone's like, this is so fucking stupid. But Hitler is in his bunker raging, we need heavier tanks, and so everyone goes along with it until everything comes crashing down.
You think this is what Pod World is? You think it's not even intended to be a real thing?
Oh no, I think everyone the really smart people, they're like Macron. They say, oh yes, sure, fellow lizards. When the order comes, I will turn all of France into a pod hive. Definitely, keep me informed. And then he just, shrugs his shoulders and goes, yeah, that might happen, but it might not. But the really dumb people, they're the people who, they have no, NGO world, that's the only thing they know how to do.
Okay, I'm a really dumb person, so let me defend this idea. I mean, I hate the idea, obviously, but here I could say the Pod World thing. It sounds outlandish. There was that World Economic Forum fan fiction that guy wrote that was the year's 2030 and I rent everything. I don't own anything. I'm transported around by Uber guys. Everything's free and blah blah blah. It's a post scarcity pod world. Now obviously that part's bullshit, but here. Pod World solves a lot of problems for them. Okay, you have rising inequality. They essentially can't stop because their economic model doesn't allow that. So you have the people who work with their brains. The we used to call them middle class or whatever, but you just the not quite the elite of society, but the upper crust part of it, the top 20, 15, whatever percent. The problem with the inequality is that you have those people in the city doing their little jobs at the computer doing spreadsheets. But when they leave the office, someone can shoot them and steal their stuff, and that's a big problem. They don't want to live there anymore. Okay, with Zoom, you don't necessarily have to keep them in the city, but even if you do keep them in the city, they can stay inside, be nice and warm and toasty. They can have little slave people bring them everything they need through Amazon, through Zoom, whatever. They don't even have to travel out anymore to visit each other. They can just have Zoom Christmas with mom and dad, bug person. The Zoom dating, there were Zoom nightclubs during the height of the pandemic.
Oh my fucking God.
Pandemic mania. So this solves by itself a lot of problems, and it solves another problem, which is diminishing returns. Okay, these people, this white-collar job that they have in the past would have allowed them to have a spouse who didn't have to work. They could have a family. They could get a nice house. They could get a car. They could leave stuff to their kids. You're not going to be able to do that anymore necessarily, because as inequality ramps up, even they are going to feel the pinch. Well, that's fine. You're going to rent everything. You're going to live in a nice little apartment. If you can convince people that not only is this workable, but this is a high-status way of life, when I say it, I'm like, nobody could really believe that. But I don't know. There are people who go on Twitter now and brag about how they haven't seen their family in a year, and they're happy to look at Aunt Martha through the iPad for Thanksgiving. So I mean, maybe you can do that, and that's if that aspect of the Great Reset. It's very doable.
The problem is kind of illustrated by what's his name, the governor of California, Gavin Newsom.
Yeah,
there's new sort of a COVID curfew.
That should have been the biggest story in like the past 2 months or whatever. That, to me, that was a huge story. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, and I saw some link on Twitter, just, streets, I can't remember which city it was, but, like the streets were packed with people either waving that sort of don't tread on me flag or, MAGA flags or whatever and saying, fuck your fucking COVID curfew. We're Americans. And it's like, at that point, you kind of realize that the problem is not so much like what's included in the Great Reset or in all of these sort of plans that bug people have. Sure, all of that is nice if you're a bug person, I guess. I mean, I can't judge what their tastes and predilections are, but like the sort of mechanism of keeping an empire together have not changed from the days of the Roman Empire. Like, sure, you have like different inputs or whatever, but the sort of formula is still the same. And the huge problem that the US has is that it's essentially like a giant on clay feet, essentially. It does not have the sort of well-staffed internal security secret police apparatus that the Eastern Bloc had. And people saying, oh, well, I posted on something awful about, assassinating Obama, and Secret Service agents came to Richard Low Tax's house. Yeah, that's really impressive and all, and I'm happy for you. But this is not the Cheka. This is not Stasi. This is not like a significant amount of the population is either like directly employed by the Stasi or on the payroll, and it's not what the Stasi did, like stuff like essentially they had a guy under surveillance for being I think like a poet or whatever, and maybe he wrote some sort of like seditious poems that if you read them the right way, they might have said that East Germany wasn't 100% perfect. Like, they set this guy up with like an agent who got close to him, married him, had like 3 children, and then when he wrote some poem that where the subtext wasn't really the subtext anymore, she said, aha, and just called her fucking handlers and got him put into prison.
Women are passionate about social justice.
Yeah, like, the U.S. does not have this, okay? The U.S. does not have the money or the personnel or the training to do shit like that.
There's another
on a grand
aspect with the
scale.
United States, and unless we're going back to the thing I said about well, they're going to use digital communication, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Well, America's very spread out.
Yeah.
You have there's a lot of things going on the East Coast, but then you have another big population center on the West Coast. The Midwest is fucking huge and wide open. Now, if you're talking about, let's say, Great Britain and the city of London, or to a lesser extent France and the city of Paris, there are a lot of these places, countries that, or like Singapore is a great example. Some of our some right-wing dissidents really like to jack off about like Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan. These are essentially city-states.
Yeah.
Right? You can get a lot done that way because you have everybody crammed into one small space. They're all really reliant on like the city of London, for all practical purposes, is the United Kingdom at this point, correct?
Yeah, I mean, economically, sure.
Yeah, in a way that like you can't say that about New York City or L.A. about the United States. It kind of, but it's not. There are multiple poles in the United States.
Yeah, definitely. Like,
and that's probably the biggest problem that they would run into.
Yeah.
Which is if you're in Britain, I think that's why I think that Britain's the great place to look, because they have the same angle, the same with the right, like the Whig Nazis, like the eternal Anglo problems. But they're also, you have everybody crammed together in London. You have CCTV everywhere. If anybody could make it work, I think it would be them.
Yeah, but I mean, the British couldn't really win a counterinsurgency fight in Ireland, and we're not talking like the entire island, which is tiny, by the way. We're talking about like a small part of the island, and
they couldn't stop Brexit.
Yeah, they couldn't stop Brexit, and they couldn't stop the quagmire that the IRA sort of drew them into, and the problem with libs in general is that they all think that things will magically work out. This is pretty common in like really catastrophic regimes throughout history that sort of usher in revolution, and that they just think that, dude, it'll all work out. You think too hard. But like, so libs say, oh, Trump and MAGA-tards, they're going to start some secessionist movement or whatever. We're going to send in the Tomahawk missiles to kill them. And it's like, if you have any sort of grounding in history, and this is where I appreciate Bog Beef's love for all things Roman, because loving all things Roman teaches you like that there's essentially nothing new under the sun. So
yeah.
So if you want to send in the military, you sort of have to ask a couple of questions, like, do you have enough men? What are the loyalties of the men? So, like, what sort of social basis do you recruit them from? So historically, like, successful empires essentially try to have police duty handled by non-native personnel.
Yeah.
So, in the Austrian Empire, you sent the Austrians down to Italy, you sent the Italians to Hungary, and you sent the Hungarians to Austria to make sure that like people wouldn't get too many sympathies with the local population. Like, I've heard that the Coast Guard is sort of like a parking spot for, like coastal rhinos and so on to park their sons in the military, quote unquote, but not have to deal with the fucking plebs. Like, are you going to send in the Coast Guard or whatever to patrol like rural Virginia? I don't think so, and I don't think there's enough of them. Is the American military, which is notorious for spending a ton of money on planes that can't fly and ships that can't float, and newer and better aircraft carriers that fail to launch aircraft because the catapult is faulty. Like, is this military with people with rifles numbering in the hundreds of thousands at best? Is this military going to go from, the amazing, stunning success of counterinsurgency in Iraq to a country the size of a continent, literally the size of a continent, and where you can't just, I'm going to send in my cool AC-130 gunship like in Call of Duty and blow up a hospital. And Americans won't care because it's happening in Iraq. Well, if you blow up a hospital in Paris, Ohio, whatever, I think Americans are going to care about that in a way that they may not care so much in Afghanistan. So a much bigger country, an exhausted military, and incredibly problematic rules of engagement. And what do the libs say? Oh, well, it will be done. The troops will be home before Christmas. We have tanks. Guys, we have Abrams tanks. And these fucking magatards with their AR-15 rifles, they can't penetrate the tanks. Ergo, we win. There's a lot of sloppy thinking going on, let's just say.
This is the eternal problem for empires, and it has been throughout history. They like to do the thing that you said a minute ago. They like to, you want security to be handled by people by outsiders. If you want the Hungarians guarding Bohemia and the Bohemians guarding Hungary. And if anybody remembers history, you know a lot about this era, so you can tell me if I'm off base here, Malcolm. But Yugoslavia in the 30s and the 40s. Yugoslavia should have been a really difficult. It's nothing but it's like mountains, and you would think that when the Germans invaded Yugoslavia during World War II, that should have been a tough fight, right? But it wasn't. The Germans just ripped through Yugoslavia in no time at all. And one of the explanations I've seen for why that happened was they like to do the thing where they would have Slovenians guarding Croats and whatever. And when the time came, there were people like, "Fuck that! I'm not going to fight the Wehrmacht for these dirty Slovakian bastards." Yeah. And the whole thing falls apart. And that's the eternal problem with empires, is that ultimately it gets too big to control. And we're already reaching that point in our internal borders. America has 330 million people in the United States. When it was 100 million, when it was 30 million, people had a lot in common. There was you could manage an election in a way that would, I guess, be more palatable to people than you can now. And that this problem's not, as long as that we're one of the hegemonic powers, this problem doesn't go away. And kind of like what you're saying, everybody just imagines, well, we'll send in the tanks, we'll do this, we'll do what we've always done. And of course, as the Romans realized, eventually you hit a point where that doesn't work anymore. And people don't always see that coming. So this election, I don't think this is going to happen in this election. I don't think that Trump's not, if Trump was a Caesar figure, if he was actually like a Huey Long type guy, it could happen. It could happen right now, because there are a lot of people who are crazy about Donald Trump because he gave him just a tiny fucking whiff of this idea of, hey, you know what? Wouldn't it be cool if instead of being a international shopping mall, we just kept a little bit of this, stuff, American concerns of our own? He gave people a tiny taste of that. Most of it in rhetoric, not even in action, and people went nuts for it. So if he was a Caesar type, if he was a Huey Long type, if he was someone who wanted power bad enough, we could I think we could actually have seen what you're describing happen right in front of us. However, I don't think that he's that guy. And I don't think that we will. But people who think that can never happen, I think that's crazy.
I think that we've sort of passed into a point where like nobody knows what the fuck is going to happen. Even if Trump went out tomorrow and said, I've changed my mind. Maybe election fraud isn't really all that important. Maybe I was just, making a tempest. This is all a tempest in a teapot. Maybe fraud goes on, but don't be mad about it, okay, guys? I've changed my mind. Like,
the genie's out of the bottle.
Yeah, maybe people would say, well, Trump, I really respect you, and if you say I shouldn't care about this, I shouldn't care about this. That could happen. But what could also happen is people saying, you know what, Trump? Fuck you. You say I shouldn't care about the fate of the Republic. You're the one who actually sort of opened this door, but you're gonna be damned if you think you can fucking close it in my face again. Fuck off. At that point, nobody knows what the hell to do.
That's another Roman thing that I don't know how realistic it was versus just the press release that the new emperor would say, but they would claim that their troops during some of the crises would just say, hey, guess what, we went, you're the emperor now, you're our leader, you're the emperor, you got to win this war so we can get our shit. Here's what I think will probably happen with Trump. I don't think that he has the will or the juice to get the states to keep him as president. But what I think he probably will do is he'll say, eventually, once the courts have turned against him and there's not any realistic path out, he's going to say, you know what, I did win this election. It was stolen from me, but because as a magnanimous person for the good of the country, I'm going to step aside, but I didn't lose, I won.
Yeah.
'Cause that fits in like the site, like the way Trump acts.
Yeah.
And he'll go off and he'll say, I'm going to start a new media company, I'm going to do whatever. And just like the people in 2016 who just refused to believe that Trump won legitimately, now you will have an equal part of society who thinks that this election was fraudulent, and the genie, like I said, the genie doesn't go back into the bottle.
Yeah,
you're not going to go back to the way. I don't think that people are going to go back to the way. I'm not saying that it's going to be a revolution, but I don't think anyone's going to. I don't think most people are going to feel the same way about elections after the last two.
No,
for a long time.
There's no way, and that's kind of the real danger of what Trump is doing.
That's why they're mad at him.
Yeah, because if Trump had said, I won this election, but I'm gonna, back down for the good of the country. One day after the election, everyone would just go,
It's Trump being Trump.
Yeah, okay, so I'm glad we're done with this ordeal. And, everyone was saying at that point, after all of this is said and done, it's going to be like, 2% of the population on, some fucking Alex Jones bullshit saying the lizard pedophile vampire stole the election. And we're going to be having to deal with, these 2% who don't care. Maybe that was true at that point. I don't think it was, but let's humor the Michael Tracy's of the world and say that, yeah, sure, 2%, fine, Michael Tracy. After 2 weeks of this fighting, and after more fear, doubt, and uncertainty, it's not going to be 2%. You'll be lucky if it's 20%. And at a certain point, when you cross a threshold of people who are checked out of the system, any sort of peace is just going to lead to greater destruction down the line, because the peace will let the Tsar think, I beat back the peasants, I guess nobody will ever want democracy again. But obviously that's not how these things work.
What will happen is a crisis will happen, and when crises happen, you're straining the structures of society, and in all these little, even if you just had, if it's only in 10 years from now, if only 10% of people from the 2016 election think it was that the Russians did it, and 10% of people think that Trump's election was stolen from him, that's a fifth of the population who, in one way or another, don't have a very, we like to say, a very Schmittian view of politics. Like they don't believe in what's printed on the tin anymore. That can you can paper over that with prosperity and good times. And I guess if you think that we're heading for better times than we're in now, there's no point in worrying about it.
Yeah, definitely.
But if you think that the opposite's happening, I mean, politics could be interesting. That's the thing that Trump did, and no one can deny. He made politics fun again.
I mean, they murdered Caesar on the Senate floor. But, at some point, pretty far back, like, the death of Caesar had stopped mattering as far as the, future of the Republic. It was dead either way.
He said that himself before he died.
Yeah. And I think...
I'm the biggest Caesar fanboy of all time, but I think his death was completely insignificant. He had lost the mandate of heaven at that point. All his future plans were just self-aggrandizement that really didn't have. He was no longer representing anyone. He wanted to go on some military adventures just for his own sake, and that's. That to me, his story was already was done when he died.
Yeah, I agree.
He had won too hard, too fast. It was over.
Yeah, and again, Trump was never going to be able to say, and I mentioned this before you came in, Marek, but a Republican friend of mine sent me a link to a website that, let me see what it's called. It's a project Trump started up, greatagain.gov. And it was a website launched in 2016, right after he had won, where he had this idea of essentially setting up some sort of website to act as a clearinghouse, to send out an invitation to the American people who weren't really political operators. And this is kind of something I'm involved with politically here in Sweden in terms of populism. But essentially, the idea is that you invite, shopkeepers and people from various trades and whatever to hold different posts in the administration, essentially to get outsiders into politics. Recruiting on merit rather than being a political insider. And so he had this big idea of, new administration, we're going to have to do real big changes. He put Reince Priebus, the RNC chairman at the time, in charge of this. You know what happened, Marek?
Yeah, of course.
The database got accidentally lost. And all of the backups were just mysteriously deleted.
That's even worse than I thought. I just figured he would sabotage it not literally sabotage it like a gremlin. Wow.
Yeah, they just, sorry, someone just hit the delete button. I guess all the work is gone. I've no idea how this happened. And people who said that, Trump, he had 4 years to change the election laws in all of the states. How the fuck is a president supposed to do that, even if he has the party behind him?
For people at home, what the transaction there is that, hey, I'm going to hire people outside of basically the DC bureaucratic union, and it does not I'm talking about like a shadow union basically. Mm-hmm. I'm going to hire people from elsewhere, and that's those DC people saying no, you're not.
Yeah, parallel bureaucracy never can allow that.
Yeah, and they just straight up, oh sorry. We're just going to delete all of this information, so you can't do this.
Yeah, I've been hard on Trump, and I do think he's a person he enjoys the trappings of power rather than power.
Yeah.
Which is, whatever. I get that. I would too if I was in his position. However, I'll say one thing you can tell right now. He is sticking his finger in the eye of the people that dislike him. Right as you can see it most. You can see it most obviously when. Pardon me, phone ring. You can see it most obviously with the foreign policy change he made at the last minute, where he started pulling troops out of Iraq and Afghanistan. That's something you do to say fuck you to the people who opposed you, and hey, a lame duck president can throw a couple bombs. That's something that Trump really understands politically. Is even when he talks, he always ends on with something punchy, right at the end. So hey, flipping the double birds on your way out. That would do a lot for the morale of the people who support you.
Yeah, and I think that I've sort of... The thing about Trump is that, everyone always sort of underestimates him, and they underestimate the sort of opposition he's up against, and they sort of underestimate his intelligence and the intelligence of people around him. It's just a dumb Cheeto. But I think that I'm getting the sense more and more that future historians will actually see Trump as the Julius Caesar of the American Empire in some way. Not in the sense that he is a great or equally charismatic man or a great general or whatever, but rather in the sense that he sort of uncorked the bottle here. The genie is out. The plebs have started to flex their muscle, and you can't really... The senatorial class is completely unable to deal with that. So in the sort of grand sweep of history, he really is a pivotal person, I think. He would have been a lot less pivotal until he decided to just say, oh, well, so you're going to muscle me out by, cheating. Well, I'm going to pull the rug from this fucking oligarchy and show the American people all the dirt that hides under the rug. And we'll see what happens next. I don't fucking care if the country falls apart after that.
He reminds me of one of those populares who came before Caesar, who got murdered by the Senate or whatever. He got by the powers that be, and to be honest, he's a celebrity. He's a celebrity. He didn't put up the fight that you would need to be Julius Caesar, but there's a reason that there are so few of those figures in history. I think that what the people look back on is this was the start of something. I don't know what, or if nothing else, just a sign that the consensus that had ruled since most of the end of the post-war is falling apart. Yeah. Because if they were on top of their game, Trump never would have made it as far as he did. They would have. They thought he was a joke in the 2016 Republican primary. Everybody thought he was a joke. Once he won that, it was like, well, this is great news. We can fucking slam dunk on this guy and win back everything, and it'll be, and then he ends up fucking winning. And that was probably the thing they can't forgive. Not Trump, but the voting public and in general, because we weren't supposed to do this. We were not. We were supposed to, eat our vegetables, eat our bugs, get in the pod, and people didn't do that. And that's part of the reason why they got so angry and send in the tanks, fuck the chuds, and the carpet bomb the Midwest. And that's what you do when you realize you're not quite as powerful as you thought you were.
Yeah, and for the last few weeks, but really a year or two, the sort of consensus manufacturing mechanisms have been operating well above, their nominal capacity. Like once you start actually like hard selling a bunch of bullshit, you essentially burn through your legitimacy a lot faster.
It's the afterburner in a jet. You can dump the fuel right into that bad boy, and it'll make you go a little bit faster. But you're out of gas real quick.
Yeah, they essentially have to go full afterburner in order to even sort of stay on the level with this fucking Trump thing. And
here's a good measurement we can all look at. If people go back to if Fox News ratings recover and people go back to business as usual. And I really you shouldn't worry too much about it. It was a momentary thing of excitement. If they don't, if Republicans still continue to, as they have every year, their opinion of the media drops, which this is no small thing, because that is one of the engines of the public opinion machine, is like this media. If you have a large group of people who just don't believe it, that is a problem in a country like the United States. How big of a problem, I don't know, but it's definitely one. So we'll see if people just go back onto the plantation, as they like to say about the platinum plan and stuff. Sorry, let me cut that. If people just go back to doing what they were doing before, don't worry about it. It's business as usual. If they don't, who knows?
Yeah, that shit happened in Sweden, and it's actually, once the Humpty Dumpty is broken, it's very hard to put him back together again. The alternate media, I think ON and Newsmax, like, their big threats will be their own incompetence or any sort of attempts to basically fuck with them legally, I guess. And with Pollard, it's the same thing. People aren't at the point where they're saying, oh, well, Pollard is so much worse than Twitter or Facebook. Haha, the conservatives are owning themselves. Now they're saying Google needs to step in to make sure that like people can't access this on the internet, because we can't have people outside of our control. And like the weaknesses of the elite are becoming increasingly apparent. And once the elite is sufficiently sort of delegitimized, like it doesn't actually matter where the spear comes from, or whether it is a spear or a knife or like a crossbow bolt between the eyes or whatever. Like, it's like putting a piece of rotten meat out in the sun. Like, it's going to attract flies. And it doesn't matter which direction they fly in from. Like, it's a foregone conclusion at that point. So I used to think that, like, talking about, civil conflict, even civil war, was just totally ridiculous. Like, you're either Fed posting or you're being some fucking 18-year-old communist for Bernie saying, oh, fuck you, Dad, the revolution is going to come any one of these fucking days. And I know, because I've been in that phase in my life myself. But at this point, it's more like these things. It's not that they probably will happen. It's that it's becoming harder and harder to see how they can be avoided. Because there's no gas left in the tank. There's just, everyone's agreed on the fact that, like, we are going to dispossess the entire American middle class and have Amazon gobble up everything. And that's going to put, like, a lot of more people into poverty, and the income inequality is going to rise. What the fuck is our solution to that? Oh, it's the Great Reset. It's telling people that actually being a fucking sharecropper or a debt slave, it's actually good now. Like, this is the extent of their plan. Telling slaves, well, we have a new name for slave. We call it the non-voluntary worker. Isn't that grand? Like, that's their solution at the end of the day. Rebranding slaves as non-voluntary workers and putting up like some fucking Brookings seminar about how non-voluntary work shapes character or whatever. Like, these people have no fucking idea what they're gonna do.
Gas might be out of the tank, but you can drift a long ways without gas, and then we don't know. You could be multiple lifetimes. You never. That's the thing.
Multiple lifetimes, no, but I mean, a decade, maybe 2 if we're lucky.
I don't know. People have been saying that about some people have said that about capitalism in the United States, and we'll see.
Yeah, I don't.
Close.
Yeah, we should. We're 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to see what happens, my friends. But personally, I think that happenings are going to keep coming sooner and more dramatic than any of us imagined. Just take COVID. If you had said anything about, COVID, curfews, and maybe we should never go back to, celebrating Thanksgiving because it's bad. Like, if you had told any of us that in 2019 that we'd be living in this world, we'd never have believed it.
Yeah, that's true. I wouldn't have thought that people would have taken what we've taken. But do you have anything to plug, Malcolm, other than your Twitter account?
No, and I don't plug my Twitter account because it's just for shit posting. So people.
Yeah, but he's got the greatest display handle, the #1 plant truster in all of Serbia.
I mean,
look at
it's like.
He's an edgy guy, sending those nudes. Ladies.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have to sort of go, hello, fellow kids, look at my memes, in order to forestall the neurosis over aging and impending death.
I'm short on gas. I think that simple thought experiment. So think about how. How there's how could you so let's say there's like a speed to politics, Spenglerian cycles and things like this. I think it's so much faster now. Like if you think of like how could you slow down, like in terms of like this thing called acceleration and stuff, all that Nick Land stuff, like how could you slow down stuff? And I don't think you can. I think anything that used to take decades takes years now. So I hope you get this before World War III.
Yeah. You should have Michael Anton on the show because he's even more black-pilled than me, so I don't have to...
We should, actually. He's written some spicy stuff.